We are going to be looking at different ways of passing data between views and controllers besides using models. Um, Different ways of binding data, and you learned about the bind and bind never attributes. So, what we have been doing so far, which is the best way to basically pass data from any kind of form that you submit, is we have been using a model to bind the data. And so in our HTTP post action methods, we pull in the a class object. In this case, it's called model, but it doesn't have to be called model. And then we access the properties using that object. And it's directly tied to our class, so it is strongly typed, which means it's using the data types of the properties to ensure that the data is accurate. So this little example is from In the Bag, and we're pulling in a wishes object called model, and we're accessing the various properties using that. Here's another example. In this case, we're actually using an ID parameter, which may or may not be populated. That's what the question mark means. And so if it is there, it will be pulled into our action method. And if it's not there, that's fine. Okay, and this is an example from the music store. So there are different ways of retrieving data from posted forms besides using a class object. And we're going to take a look at a couple different ways that we could accomplish the same task. So if we want to retrieve a value from a form, we can either use the name attribute from the form in our action method parameter list, or we can access request.form and kind of subscript in with the name attribute. So this is like an associative array that basically is storing everything that was submitted in the form using a key, and that key is the name attribute. So in server-side coding, the name attribute is important and it is used. Okay, in client side, it's the ID that's important, but this is server side, so we're using name. So first we're going to take a little look at how to pull in data as parameters. So in this very simple little form, you can see the method is post, and I've got a couple different name attributes. I've got the genie's name, the age, and the number of wishes that they have granted. So that is in my view. And when they submit this, it gets posted and it goes back into the controller. And where it's going to go is through this little action method. And so you can see that genie name is positioned here, and we're saying it's a string, which matches what we have for input. And the important thing here is not only the data type, but the fact that you have the same parameter name as attribute name. They have to match. So then for this next one, I said the type was a number and the name attribute is age. So I've got integer, n. Again, I'm bringing in age. And then I've got wishes granted, which is also a number. So here I've got integer wishes granted. So that name parameter is important. Not only is it used in the form, but it is basically how you're going to name those parameters that you are pulling into your action method. And so then once I do that, you can see I can just use those because I've said that they are integer. I don't have to convert them. Okay, so I can actually do any kind of arithmetic I want, or I can do comparisons, which is what I'm doing here. So basically, if they've granted over 5,000 wishes or they're over 1,000 years old, we are considering them to be an experienced genie. So they get to go to that view. Otherwise, they are a mere novice and they go to the other view. So as you can see, big advantage of doing it this way, using parameters, is the fact that we are assigning data types. Okay, we don't have to do any kind of conversion. And another point here I want to drive home is this is not connected to a model. This is all based on the form. This is coming from the form. Okay, we are not tied to a model using this technique. So in the hands-on, we are going to be practicing this, and that is what the next video will show you.